So I think we can call the September 16th, 2025 meeting of the Wakefield Conservation. Roll call first. Eleanor?
Here.
Jennifer?
Here.
Here. All three commissioners present. Next is the approval of minutes. We have the minutes from the 2nd. We made some comments, which I believe Judy did incorporate into the second draft of the minutes. Any further concerns?
Not for me.
Jennifer, anything?
No.
Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
Second it.
thanks. All in favor?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the minutes are approved. Okay, we've got. Okay, the first item on the agenda for tonight then is DP 313652 pack self-storage of Wakefield at 50 Quantapowhat Parkway. Notice of intent and continued public hearing. Ethan, anything new come in from that on that one?
No, that one they continued it. 50 Quantapowhat.
50 Quantapowhat's been continued?
Yes.
Next meeting? Okay. I guess I missed that. Then we have a half hour before the next item on the agenda. So I guess we can move to other business. 200 to 400 Quantapowhat Parkway has also been pulled from the agenda, as I understand.
Well, I have here on the updated agenda we have 154 Salem at 7:05.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like the agenda was amended a few times, so you're gonna have
Okay.
to, yeah,
Loaded the last.
pull it up from the website. I'm not sure it was circulated with us.
Yeah, that's annoying. I'll get it now and
See if I can get to it faster.
got it.
Okay.
All right. L&L Development, 154 to 158 Salem Street, notice of intent. Continued public hearing for the construction of a one single family home, 2 duplexes, 2 8-unit residential buildings, parking, landscaping, utilities and stormwater management within 100 feet of a BVW and 200 feet of the riverfront. So that's our first item. And anyone here to speak for the applicant at this point?
Yes, Mr. Chair, for the record, Attorney Brian McGrail here on behalf of the applicant.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Good evening. Again, for the record, Attorney Brian McGrail on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is Rich Williams from Williams and Sparagus Engineering. Just to, I guess, take a step back on this and refresh the commission's memory. This has been an ongoing project. It's before your commission. It's before the planning board for a subdivision to create 4 lots. And then it's also before the zoning board of appeals to for a special permit process for an attached dwelling complex on one of the lots. So it's jurisdictional with all three boards, which is somewhat rare. We're going back and forth to different boards. We've had an hiatus on this because we went back for a redesign. Originally, the attached dwelling complex, the townhouses, was going to be 13 units. We've reduced that to 8 units, and we had to do a redesign. We also had some initial comments from the town engineering department on our original plan that required some revisions. And we also had some comments from our neighbors on Nablus Way, who have a peer review engineer looking at the plans, and we're meeting and working with them as well. So we had some changes to accommodate or some of their concerns. So what we'd like to do tonight is present the commission the updates on the plans, the highlights of the changes that have occurred. I don't think the town engineering department has issued a memo on this. It will end up going to all three boards or commissions. And I think we're all kind of waiting for that. And also, this revised plan in supporting materials are also being reviewed by our neighbors on Nablus Way, their engineer. So they have not had an opportunity to comment with us either. So we'll be talking with them again as well. So with that said, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Rich Williams if he could to share his screen and provide some highlights on some of the changes that have occurred.
Go ahead, Rich.
You. Can everyone see that?
Yes, although it would be good to have it a little bigger.
Yeah, I'm gonna zoom in.
Okay.
I'll start with just an overview. The Salem Street is to the north here, and this is our proposed road coming in that provides frontage for the 4 lots. And as Brian said, you've seen the plan before, and I'm going to highlight what the changes were from our last set to this set. So to do that, I'll zoom in. Wetland area. Oop. Okay, so this dark fatter green line is the wetland line. This line is the 25-foot buffer from that wetland. We don't have any work in that buffer zone. We've kept all the work out of it. And the outer line is obviously the 100-foot buffer zone. Since the last plan, we've made a few changes to the stormwater management system. The first is that we enlarged this drainage system to have less runoff, less outflow in storm events. The only outflow is minimal when it's in the 100-year storm, based on this new design. We've also pulled.
Most of the water is infiltrating from that system into the groundwater then instead of.
That's correct.
Flowing
That's
out
correct.
into the wetlands.
That's correct.
Okay.
This system here was moved to be 50 feet from the wetland because it does have an infiltration component. And similarly, the stormwater system here was pulled 50 feet out because it also has an infiltration component, however minimal in this area. This small stormwater area here was, it is within the 50 feet, so we have lined that so that there is no infiltration component to that. And just to refresh how this system works, this whole area here infiltrates. There is no outflow from this component. The bigger system has, as I just discussed, an outflow only in the 100-year storm, and that discharges in a swale down to this infiltration pond. We, with input from the town engineer, pulled all of the patios outside this existing sewer easement, the sewer easement that runs through the lot. We pulled the patios out, so the closest hardscape is the landward side of that sewer easement up towards these units. We have added behind the two units on lot 4, based on a request from the abutter, an infiltration trench, so any runoff that is coming from this lot hits this infiltration trench. There is, again, minimal runoff going in that direction because we're taking the roof and putting it into an infiltration area, but it was requested and it was something that we were willing to accommodate. We did some additional topography
So
on the
that,
Napas Way. I'm sorry.
Just to clarify on that infiltration trench, then any flow coming from that area of the site is going to go into that trench and infiltrate into the groundwater, not continue on down to the swale to the pond at the far southern end.
Yeah, I would say in most conditions, there might be in the 100-year storm, there might be some flow in that direction, but we have greatly reduced the amount of flow that's going to that lot.
Okay.
Okay. We did some additional topography on the Nablus Road side to show that we aren't pushing any water onto them. We made some substantial changes to the water and sewer connections. Most of those are outside the buffer zone, but the one area that is in the buffer zone that might be of note to the commission is that the town has asked us to connect directly to the sewer that's in the easement with the sewer connections for units 5 through 8.
So each of those 4 will have an individual direct connection.
They'll have correct, individual direct connection. And it is somewhat likely that this whole line will be replaced. That right now is a clay sewer, and the town, we've left it up to them as to whether or not they want us to put a new section in. It is possible that it would all be new or probable. So that work would be taking place there as well. We've added details of this concrete retaining wall that is adjacent to the 25-foot buffer zone here. We've added a detail for that and added details for the wall that is on the westerly side over here. We also added for the whole project a limit of work that is shown on here as the line with the black dots. We've submitted a planting plan from the landscape architect, which shows what we're planning for planting not only in the buffer zone but for the rest of the project. There are a couple of areas that of note to the Conservation Commission, and that is this pond is going to get a conservation mix. as is this pond here. And we've proposed some evergreen plantings on the lot line to the west and some other shrub plantings behind these units, and also between the units and the sewer easement would get plantings. And I
that
think,
would be mainly a seeded,
yeah, the rest would be seeded.
Okay.
And I think that is the extent of the changes that we made to the plan.
One
Anything,
question,
Brian?
replacement sewer pipe. What you'd be replacing the clay that's in place now with what material?
It would be PVC,
PVC, and the connection
Yep.
from the units would also be PVC then, I guess.
correct?
Okay.
Yeah, in any case, the units will be PVC. The
Okay.
service connections would be of PVC.
Okay.
Brian, did I miss anything?
No, I think we're very comprehensive, Rich. It's a good job.
It was pretty clear. If I recall correctly, these stormwater management systems are basically designed to cause the sediment to fall out before, and then in chambers before the infiltration areas, before the water reaches the infiltration areas of the systems. Am I correct?
That's correct. These areas, it's a three-step process in terms of the treatment. They are collected in catch basins.
Right.
And then the discharge goes into a oil grit separator, which is a baffled tank, so that any grit is collected. Normally it'd be in the up gradient side of the tank, and then the discharge to that is assumed to the infiltration area is assumed to be clean.
The grit is actually collected in a separate separator, which can be maintained, and then everything that
Correct.
goes into the infiltration chamber.
Yeah,
is
and
clean
normally,
water.
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
Normally we see that almost all the grit is collected in the catch basins. And once you get to the oil grit separator, there's very little grit in that first tank, and then none in the second. So history has shown that these things work pretty good to keep that system clean.
questions from my colleagues? Jennifer, Ellen?
Yeah, I saw there was an updated stormwater report. I wasn't sure. Did you guys also update the notice of intent or no?
No, the notice didn't need to change, just the materials that went with it, the stormwater report and the plans.
Okay. Do you mind just going back to the retaining wall area?
Sure.
So, I guess I was interested on the Noblesse Way side. Just looking at that area a little more closely.
So this is the wall here.
Okay, and do we still have the trench that was running on the other side
Yeah,
of
there's
the
a
wall?
swale here.
Okay,
When you say a trench, it's
sorry,
a swale. It's all pitched from the Nablus roadside towards the base of the wall. So the
Okay.
runoff will run down the base of the wall. It's only about a half a foot, 6 inches deep.
Okay,
And
There's
overflow
very
from
little
that,
flow in that.
the overflow from that large stormwater treatment system will also flow in about halfway down that swale,
Right, that
Okay.
outflow is here.
right?
and
And
then
again, there's only an outflow in the 100-year storm, and all of the water that is on the project side of that wall is
Mhm.
collected and infiltrated into this system.
Okay,
The only thing that is going in here is what's falling on it.
okay. And that would flow to the retention
That
pond at
flows
the
down
bottom.
to here and then ultimately out to the wetland.
Did you say you've redefined that pond at that corner as being lined rather than unlined?
No, this one is unlined, so there's an
Okay,
infiltration
so that will
component to
also
that.
infiltrate.
That's correct. This one is lined.
Okay. Just because of its proximity to the wetland.
These are very shallow. They're like a foot deep.
Okay. So the plantings will disguise them pretty completely, fairly soon.
Yeah, you won't once the vegetation comes in, you won't see them.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was interested, I don't know if this will change, but just understanding a little bit about the phasing of construction. I saw in one of your plans you had planned to maintain some trees along the area, but trying to understand a little bit about the phasing and then where you plan to store materials during construction. Because you guys have to level and
Yeah,
And
I'm not
Phil-
sure exactly. I think some of it is going to be a little bit market driven, but the road would have to be built first.
okay.
And stockpiling would take place outside the 100-foot buffer zone in these lots up here. And it would, depending on which lot is under construction, it would move, right? It would be where they're not building. And then once these are built, there is area here to stockpile material outside the buffer zone. So I would anticipate that would be the stockpile area. But once these units get underway, I mean, they have to build the drainage to build the road. So this is going to be active at the same time as the road. And then
Mhm.
once the units get started, they kind of have to be built all at the same time.
Okay.
All 8 of those units will get constructed together.
At least 4 at a time, and I'm not sure which side would go first.
Okay. So your next steps are
I'm
clearly.
gonna let Brian answer that, but I
Okay,
think it's
yeah.
tied to waiting on the reports back from the
Engineering.
body's peer review and the town engineer's letter.
That's
And the
correct.
butter doing the peer review is that building to your west
Yes, over here.
near the north arrow.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a few questions, Richard, about the plans. I see you've marked in green the wetlands boundary, 25-foot and 100-foot buffers for, I think that's for the bordering vegetated wetland. And then you also are doing some work in the riverfront area. Where does
Yeah,
it fall?
the riverfront is just this sliver up in here. And the only thing we're doing in that is grading and stormwater. So this stormwater infiltration system in that trench.
Okay.
It's the very out the river is over here next to the railroad.
Okay. Okay. I was curious about the other retaining wall that you pointed out on the 158 side. Was that in your original plan, or is that new?
Yeah, that's been in the plan all along.
Okay. All right. And you talked about this last time with your original plan. I don't know if it's changed. The snow management plan.
Yep, we have some snow storage areas that are, we talked about this with the planning board at our last meeting as well. In the area down where there's a buffer zone, we'd be storing snow between driveways.
Mhm.
There's islands here, and up in here. Everything would be on the west side of this wall. And then if, then the snow would have to be removed from the site.
You said it will have to be removed?
Yeah, if there's not, if we run out of storage in
Mhm.
those island areas, we'll have to remove it. And there'll be a management company. This is all gonna be part of a condominium, and there'll be condominium docs that to speak to snow removal.
Mhm. Okay.
So those 8 units will be condominium and the 2 duplexes as well, huh?
That's correct.
Yeah, these,
Yeah.
Okay,
And we anticipate we'll have a homeowners association to manage the whole site.
that would make sense. Yeah. Any other questions from commissioners? Ethan, do you have anything?
I don't. I think, like they said, best to look at the engineer's comments once they come through, and then and any questions from there. I think we can go from there. But waiting for those comments to come through.
All right. Questions, comments from the public? Don't see any hands.
I see Mr. Smith.
Mr.
Edward?
Smith, okay, Edward Smith.
Yes, Edward Smith, 162 Salem Street. I'm a direct abutter.
Okay.
And one of my neighbors, Paul Luvano, and another neighbor on Toby are traveling tonight. And we all shared some same concerns. And he had it written out for me. If I could just read them, it's not too long, but it's something you may want to take some notes on, because I don't expect you to have all the answers right now. But before I do that, I'd just like to say, before, like in the spring when we took our walk, I don't think I've ever met any more professional and dedicated board members that really care about the environment. And I just really want to say I appreciate your service, especially the leaders, but not to leave out anybody. It's just, you can tell you really care. So without further ado, if I could read the statements that Paul had written. You may want to take notes, but it won't be too bad. And then I'll have a few
Could you,
comments of my own.
afterwards, could you email us a copy of that?
Yeah, I'll try to, but let me get through them. It
No,
won't
that's
take
fine.
it won't take
Fine.
too
Go
long.
ahead.
All right. So here we go. Now this is from Paul, but we all share, the three of us share the same thing. So during the previous Conservation Committee walkthroughs, were there any signs of potential vernal pools? In one of the earlier meetings, we heard that the proposed development would have 92 new trees, 160 shrubs, and 190 perennial plants. I would like to ask how many trees are being removed. A search within the USDA website says there should be 200 mature trees per acre. This site certainly looks more dense than the estimate, but given that, this would total approximately be 540 mature trees being removed. Should Wakefield have some kind of requirement that stipulates for every tree that is cut down, some number, we can call it X, that has to be planted? With a project at this size, on a lot of this size, to clear cut this land and remove this many trees, maybe we have to ask ourselves if there is is it going to be too much damage done to the trees and to the surrounding wildlife, just to fit in a project that maybe this project is too large. How long will this lot lay bare before final landscaping? Erosion concerns. It's hard to see the elevations in the back of lot 3. Do you know how much fill will be brought in for lot 3? And what are the beginning elevations versus the final grade elevation at the 25-foot buffer line? When I look at the Mass Association of Conservation website, it states, the Conservation Commission is the official agency charged with the protection of a community's natural resources. This board is the town's last safety net. That stands out to me a lot. In terms of wildlife species, here is what I've seen in our neighborhood: deer, fox, turkey, occasional fisher cats, squirrels, rabbits, ducks, barred owls, eastern screech owls, at least 2 types of hawks, the red-tailed and the Coopers, and dozens of other bird species. This lot, along with adjacent lots, including the Mill River and its floodplain area, have served as a wildlife corridor for as long as I lived here, which is well over 30 years. This is a pathway to and from the Reedy Meadow Conservation Area, which has been designated as a national landmark by the U.S. Department of Interior, and that's only 0.8 of a mile away. I believe if this large development is allowed to proceed as is, so close to this vast natural resource area, that this wildlife habitat will be permanently altered, if not destroyed. Now that concludes the statements that Paul wanted me to set forth. I had a couple of other short things by myself alone. One of them was just as we're speaking about gradients and fill, how much actually, for my own knowledge, what would be the difference of elevation going between my lot as a direct abutter, 162 Salem Street, and the new lot? And one other thing that kind of concerned me is basically, it just seems when I look at it, and I go back there quite a bit now because it kind of interests me, that this ecosystem seems somewhat fragile. I don't know if I'm right or wrong on that, but it seems fragile in such a way that it doesn't seem like it would take much to alter it or maybe wipe it out completely. And I'm sure you would know better than I do, but I do know like changes in gradients from higher to lower, lower to higher, and this is kind of a low-lying area. If they get flooded with water, or it could be bad news. So that concludes my statements, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. I'll let somebody else have a chance.
Thank you for your comments. Are there other comments from members of the public?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom Swanson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I stepped away from the phone for a second. Yeah, my name is Tom Swanson. I do construction management for Mr. Abuzara, who's the owner of the property on Nablus. In the past, we've been in touch with Mr. Brian McGrail, and he has graciously asked us to get with them and the engineers if we had issues. And I do appreciate that. I did look at this new design. I appreciate the fact that the drainage has been readdressed somewhat. I believe the infiltration basin made larger, so the overflow would be almost non-existent. That swale that parallels our property is I think it's elevation 62, and then at the flow line it goes down about a half a foot, and there's a slight pitch. I know prior to that, upstream, you have an infiltration, crushed stone infiltration trench. I thought that would have continued through, and I don't know if that would improve things and lower the flow line out to the wetlands in case there was a substantial amount of snow melt in that area. And to be honest, I think the drainage looks fairly good. The snow removal issue is probably our main concern. Today I had surveyors come to the site and check out our elevations right up against the fence, a little bit of slope to our pavement, and onto the finished floor elevation of the building. Finished floor elevation of the building is 63.56. So it's a little over an inch and a foot and a half above 62, maybe 2 feet above the flow line. And in some areas on the other side, on our side of the fence, and on the lower end of the pavement, we're in the 61s, in the high 61s. So we're almost at the flow line. That's why I was a little concerned about maybe having something subsurface that might be able to aid in getting the flow lower down toward the wetland effluent. The other major concern is going to be whether or not people will violate those snow storage areas. When I look at the areas that are designated, there's many, I mean, hundreds of shrubs on every spot and even a few trees. And I don't see front end loaders loading snow onto those areas. And I fear that the easy way out would be to dump it over the retaining wall in that area that's about 14 feet wide between the retaining wall and our fence. And as I said, that's very shallow compared to the elevation of our pavement and building. And if in a heavy storm, if anything major piled up there, I don't know if it got dammed up. Sometimes after a major storm, you have a major rainstorm, and you could have some sort of flooding conditions. So that's something, Mr. McGrail, if we could meet up and discuss that further and see if there could be some sort of better safeguards. I know you mentioned, Rich, that there was going to be a plan to truck stuff out, but you know how that goes in a heavy storm, they just want to open the place up, and that would look like a very appealing area to dump snow.
Yeah, I just want to just quickly just mention that the retaining wall has a parapet on it and a fence. So you're not going to be able to push snow over that. It's going to be 4 feet above grade, the top of the fence. So it's going to be hard to do. However, you know,
But not impossible.
I know, but if we get a front end loader out there, it's going to be, you know, you said you can't see, it would take a front end loader to do that. You wouldn't be able to plow it over that.
It would
No
take a
way.
loader, right, which I would imagine that's what you're gonna use there, because there's no way to plow anything.
Yeah.
We'll
So,
talk about
if we could meet up, Brian and Rich,
Yeah.
and discuss this further, I know you've had a spirit of cooperation with us in the past. And, that's just something that looked a little troubling to us.
We'll address it, Tom.
Okay, I thank you for that.
Thanks.
And that's all I have at this time.
Okay. Thanks for your comments on that, Tom. Helpful. I'll be interested to hear more about what you conclude, Brian, Rich, after your meetings with Tom, and if there are any further changes.
I think there were two issues Edward Smith brought up that maybe could be addressed, which is one, just reviewing the change of grade, I guess, on the about, you know, on his side of the property.
Yeah, I can take you through that.
And then the second part would be how many, if we have an estimate of how many trees are being removed in the buffer zone, and if we have a plan to replace those. I think.
I can go through the grading
Okay.
first. These are the grades that are along the common lot line with him, and this is a 76 contour. This is a 76 contour. So the grade next to him would be a little bit lower than his property, and that continues all the way down. We've created it such that all of the grading would remain on our property. This house here, the finished grade adjacent to the house is roughly 73, and the middle of the house is 73. So not much grade change there. This house, the existing house is at and slightly over the property line. So we'll be removing that, moving the house away. And again, no increase in grade here. It'd actually be a little bit lower than it is, so that water would stay on our property. And then when you get down to the back, the land drops off. This land was all mined for sands and gravels. This slope difference here was a man-made cut to remove material in here. But there's no change along the property line. And once you get to like units 3 and 4, we have a proposed grade in the back of units 3 and 4, right about here, that is elevation 68.5, and his lot is 72, 74, so it's going to be below his lot. The top of the foundation for these units is 5 feet below his property. And then as for the amount of trees that are being cut down, I don't know, we haven't counted the trees that are in there. We did locate trees in the buffer so that we can make sure that those remain.
So your plan would be to leave all the trees in the 25-foot buffer instead?
Yeah, we're not gonna touch them.
Although it would appear you'll have to be removing a lot of trees out to the 100-foot line.
Anything outside the 25-foot buffer, for the most part is gonna be removed.
Ellen, or anything further on that?
No, I mean, I think it's maybe to just make clear that the regulations do allow the applicant to do that. I think in terms of next steps, I don't know that, I know we want to wait and hear from Bill on his comments on the stormwater report.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if we want to put together a list of just potential, I would say, concern areas where maybe we might want to think about conditions. And, you know, for me, it's really the snow storage. If we need to think about putting, you know, I see the retaining wall, but are there other spots where maybe some strategic fencing, like the split rail fences, might be needed to prevent people from, you know, going into the wetland areas, or putting snow in certain places. And then just maybe making a few suggestions on your planting list. And you know, encouraging some native species. So I'd be happy to send along suggestions, but that, I think, you know, I'm not seeing more wetlands impact than what was initially brought to us. So I think the heavy lifting is going to be with Bill Renaud and the planning board at this point. I don't know if Jennifer or Paul, you have other.
No, I mean, I agree. I think a lot of what we're waiting on is, you know, the feedback from engineering on some of these stormwater changes. And thinking more about how to, you know, just ensure that there's not gonna be snow, storage in places that it shouldn't be, including maybe, a sign. I mean, the fact that it's a property management, service, I'm sure, or an HOA, it sounds like, I'm sure is gonna make it easier to regulate, you know, what happens in there in terms of individual people doing things.
Yeah, I don't have any further questions at this point. I too would like to see what engineering has for comments before we take this any further. Anything to conclude on this, Brian?
No, we just have to, you know, make sure that everything stays in sync with all of the boards and commissions.
I
So,
understand.
you know, meaning we're still working with ZBA on some aspects of the townhouse, because that's their jurisdiction. So if anything has to be moved, which I don't think it will at this point, then we're gonna have to, you know, obviously advise you, and so you can look at any potential impact that would have. So we kind of have to keep this open until we know everybody, you know, the plan is locked in with all three.
Okay. So we may be seeing further updates down the road, but
I'm not anticipating a lot, but you know, I can't speak for other boards, so we'll see.
right, understood. Okay. Anything further, Eleanor, Jennifer?
Oh, No, I mean, I had looked at the vernal, sorry, this was another question brought up. I was trying to write them down. I had looked, I don't think there are any vernal pools that we're aware of that would be impacted here.
Yeah, there are no vernal pools and we do have we filed an ANRAD for this property, so we did look at that during the process and there was nothing.
Yeah, but there's certainly other ones in, probably a mile away in the area. Certainly off Audubon Road and that part, they're not far away. But to be clear, none of them here. Thank you.
Okay. Then I think we're going to have to continue this till we see further comments. That works for you, Brian?
Yes, it does. Yeah, hopefully we'll have correspondence from the town engineer. And hopefully friends on Nablus will have a chance to have heard from their engineer too.
Okay. And we will look to see what those comments are from both sets of engineers. Thank you for the
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much.
That concludes the listed agenda items, so we will move to the other business at this point. And as I said earlier, 200 to 400 Quantipowitt has been set aside for tonight, as I understand it. So we're on to DEP 313-636, 71 Kendrick Road, request to add a retaining wall.
I'll give a quick introduction to that one. I'm not sure if the homeowner's here or not, but they are, they have a small hill on the side of their driveway. And because of erosion, their fence had fallen down. So they're looking to fix the fence as well as installing some sort of retaining wall to prevent that from eroding further. So I think the biggest questions we have are, what is that wall going to look like? And then how exactly do you want to permit it or approve it?
Okay.
Is the homeowner here for this one?
Hi, yes, hi, I'm Joanne Leach, I'm here. Yeah, so I believe Ethan was there, and I feel like part of the hill already has a retaining wall, because there already are rocks, like boulders up there. But the original builder didn't put the boulders all the way up to the front to my house. So it's eroded probably a good 2 feet, maybe, if not about that, if not more, soil has gone from the foundations, which caused the fence to fall down. And that's when we realized we had a bigger problem than we thought initially. So we just kind of we had a couple of different people come for estimates, and they all basically said the same thing, that they would put more or less a French drain with crushed rocks and then just add some more boulders up, like part of the wall already has, and push the dirt back up to where it was originally.
Here's a view of that site, if you can see this. This sort of hexagon shape here is the existing retaining wall. I'd sort of say it looks like riprap, where it's stones acting to stabilize the surface. And then about here, just below that, is where there was the fence, as well as where you're seeing the erosion. So she's saying you could expand that rock surface just to stabilize that slope further down up until you get to the corner of the house.
So extend the end of that retaining wall back towards the house? Is that
Essentially just extending what they have there, from what I understand. But what they have there is more or less rocks piled along the dirt hill side. I think that one's been there for some time, so it's not quite as exposed, but
So
it
that's
seems like a-
inside that split rail fence that I see on the Google Earth photos.
yes, it's. I'll pull up a couple pictures I had here from the site.
Ethan, are you sharing your screen?
I'm just gonna pull up some pictures here
Okay.
in a second.
And I couldn't tell, how close are we to the wetlands? But
Yeah, that was gonna be my other question.
Yeah, so here was that side of the hill, from the side back of the house. You can see the fence standing up as well as the fence that had fallen down. And then about where the fence is currently standing, you would see, or if you're on the site, you would see where the rock pile sort of begins and stabilizes that slope there.
Is that driveway in the background or is that the road with the car?
That's the road. The driveway runs parallel to the standing fence.
Okay.
can you go back to that other photo for a second?
Sure.
Oh,
Okay, so the drawing. So where is the wetland on here?
The wetland here, it's about, I would estimate about 15 feet. You can see it, the WF number 1 is the wetland flag that's marked there.
So it's essentially at the bottom of the slope
Yes.
from the house.
Yeah.
Ms. Leach, the engineers that you spoke with or the contractors, did they think that what remains of the existing retaining wall, do they think that's at risk of?
No, they
Um,
did not. And I think partly because there are trees that are shooting out of there that are kind of holding them in place too, but those have been there. I think the builder, those have been there since then. And they're pretty, I believe, like solid in there. They
Mhm.
just never brought the boulders up. They didn't continue that.
Mhm.
So we're probably talking, I don't know, Ethan, maybe 3 or 4 feet more from where it's eroding, like
Hmm.
that needs to be pushed back and added more, have more rocks put in or boulders to secure the dirt, the soil. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you have lost some boulders, but most of that wall, what remains, they think is pretty structurally sound and is not going to go as well.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Yeah, and it was also recommended as part of the work because sounds like it's being caused by erosion. So
Mhm.
installing a French drain as well. And
Right.
do you have an idea? Is it that sort of full area of property from the street to the front of the house, or do you know how far that would extend?
The French drain?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say? I think he said the whole thing maybe,
Mm-hmm.
that they would do that. So, yeah, I'm
It'll
pretty,
come through the wall.
yeah. But the whole length, even where the wall, even where it's already standing up and secure,
Yeah.
they would do the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Where
that's what
would
they
that
said.
drain go to? Go down the hill into the wetland then?
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. They mentioned, 2 of them mentioned instead of having the drain pipe, which that's, I guess, part of the problem now, right? It's coming down and having it go under the soil maybe? So it doesn't happen again? The drain pipe? And that way when the rain comes down, it just goes down under without eroding the soil again.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Right. And in terms of how they're discussing constructing a retaining wall, it's to stack boulders. It's not like kind of to dig down into and have the wall go sort of below the surface of the ground.
No, no, they mentioned just
Essentially gonna
bringing,
be riprap on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, getting a bulldozer, whatever, what, and pushing the soil back up. And then,
Mhm.
yes, and then the crushed stone,
Mhm.
which is the French drain, I believe. And then adding some boulders to secure it.
Mhm.
Mm. Which is pretty much what we already have. Well, we don't have the French drain, but we have the boulders on one end of it. So we just kind of want to keep doing that to prevent the erosion.
So to push it back up, you would need the bulldozer to access it. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading your screen, Ethan. Like from the wetland to push it back up?
No,
Okay,
no. From the front of my house and then just pull down and push it up. What's already fallen down. They won't be down the wetlands at all.
okay,
Yeah. We don't have much of a front yard, but they'll just be there
okay.
because the fence is down anyway, so. But they won't be in the backyard at all, or the side yard.
Okay. Sorry, Ethan, and where the current retaining wall is, how far is that from the wetland?
The wetland's not marked on the plan. I would estimate 20, 25 feet. Again, at the bottom of the slope. Sounds like they could definitely stay out of the wetland, especially if they're not doing work from down below. Mostly the work sounds like it'd be from above. So I think there's plenty of room there to stay out of the wetland.
Okay.
A question about the process. So there is an open order of conditions, right? That hasn't received a certificate of compliance, right? So are we considering this under that order of conditions?
You could do it as an amended order or an RDA. I think both would have
Mhm.
similar requirements. I'd say the amended order would make sense, and then we could tackle the COC at the same time and make sure we can condition it if we need to, anything like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I looked over the the existing order of conditions for the one that I think is still open, and it does say one of the conditions is, that work is outside of 10 feet from the wetlands. So, that makes sense for this work and sounds like it'll be possible.
Yeah, sounds like it's not too much closer to the wetlands than the initial work was.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think the other question would be if you want to see a plan with that or just a sketch or what materials you would want to see as far as the commission.
I think seeing some kind of drawing, whether it's on this plan or as a new sketch, would be helpful just to understand what's actually proposed to be done.
From an engineer or more of just a generic overview sketch?
I think it's helpful to show the proximity of the work to the wetland, like
Yeah,
show
I
where
would
the
agree with
wetland
that.
is, because it's not on the map.
Mhm.
Even if it's maybe a Google Earth, or yeah, something that shows the contours too.
Mhm.
And then draw where the fence is going to go. Like, is it going to attach to the house, or how far? I see it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that the person who did this work.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
So I feel for you here.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, certainly. I'm just having a hard time visualizing. The pictures are helpful, but I think just showing where the wetland is, how close the equipment, if it's a bulldozer, needs to get, and then I think I'm okay. And then we put, conditions to ensure there's no erosion while the work is going on. if we need to.
I think to avoid having to take the time and cost of getting an engineered plan, I'd be happy to work with the homeowners to get that sketch and get that information on a sheet. Do you think that would be enough? And
That
we get,
works.
a
Lisa
good-
was fine with that,
I
yeah.
think that
Yeah.
would work for
Yeah.
us, but I'd like to see some kind of a drawing that provides us with that information. I think that's important here. So if you can work with the homeowner to get that together, Ethan, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep, and then I think next meeting, we'll have them come back with an official amended order request, and then we could address it from there.
Yeah.
That works.
Ethan, I don't know if you can do it, but I would just, I'm not an engineer. I would just double check, with somebody in town just to make sure that the proposed solution will, keep the soil from caving in again and that it makes sense.
Sure, yep. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
from going
that's a
there,
pretty steep slope.
Yeah.
yeah, from going there, the existing retaining wall, it looks like there's been no movement of soil, but definitely will take a look at exactly what that would look like to make sure there's no erosion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like we'll need to continue this.
Yeah.
Ms. Leach, that's acceptable?
Sure, so what's my next step?
Work with Ethan
Okay.
to get a sketch that shows how this is actually going to be put onto the property, and Ethan's going to also confirm, I think, probably with engineering, that this can be done in a way that stabilizes the slope and doesn't pose further risks to cause a deterioration of your circumstances that's worse than where we're
Yeah.
sitting.
Okay.
Yep.
All
I'll
right,
reach out to you this week and fill
Okay.
you in on what the next steps will be.
And
all
then
right, I appreciate it.
Ethan, if you can also help Ms. Leach write up the narrative.
Sarah, do you want to see a narrative with that?
Just short that,
Yeah, I don't think we need a book.
no,
Mhm.
just a paragraph explaining what's
Yeah.
going to be used,
Okay.
Anything further on this one?
No, I think we're
All
good.
right. Yeah, thank you. And Ethan, I look forward to talking with you.
Yep, sounds
Yeah.
good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. The next is DEP 313597 11 Elm Crest Road, request for a certificate of compliance. Ethan, do you want to fill us in on the specifics here?
Sure. So this home had an order of conditions for an addition and a patio behind their house that was located about 70 feet from the wetland. They're looking to get a certificate of compliance. The only thing to note is they don't have an as-built, but I did make a site visit, and I'll ask the homeowner to fill in any extra information I missed.
Thanks, Ethan. Yes, no, I mean, just to kind of give a bit of background on this is that, from our perspective, everything was built to spec and to plans.
You are the homeowner.
I am the homeowner,
Welborn.
Lauren Welborn, yes.
Okay.
The issue largely is that it was a rough renovation that took much longer than anticipated, much more money, and didn't end well with the contractor. So, everything was built to spec, but going back to get additional documentation would be challenging. And from, as we talked about with Ethan, we feel that we complied with everything. So just looking to close it out at this point.
Ah, okay, I know where you are. So, Ethan, we're looking at a before and proposed, which is also after.
Yes, the one on the left is the existing conditions with the notice of intent. The one on the right is the plan of what they planned to build. And what
it was
appears to be
built
there today.
as this proposal was laid out.
Yes, this is what was proposed, and it looks pretty accurate to what I saw as well.
Okay. So you actually have a functioning addition now.
Yes, it took a very long time and a lot of staying with other people, so for a very extended period of time.
Well, that's unpleasant. Home renovations are never a lot of fun.
No, no, this one was particularly miserable from my
This
perspective.
one sounds like, okay, so, and we're looking at a wetland line that's behind that shed and playhouse. And
The erosion controls are at the 50-foot buffer.
the hay bales, okay.
Yeah.
So we're, considerable distance off.
Yeah.
And you've confirmed that what was proposed and what's been built latch up in terms of the building and all.
Yes, yeah, I wouldn't have precise measurements, but it's effectively on par with what you see on the plan.
Okay.
And from the addition to the wetlands is all lawn, so it's a good distance there of untouched.
So from the hay bale, or actually from the back of the house to the wetland is all mowed lawn.
Yes.
Is that a stone wall there back just behind the shed? No.
It's like bold, like you were existing rocks there. I wouldn't say it's a wall, but rocks, if you will. Yeah.
In other words, those were rocks that came out when they were building your lawn, and
And they, when we moved in, they were there, but yes, they were. It
Yes.
appears that way.
Uh,
Yes.
encountered those on my own property, and I'm not too far away from you. So
Ah, okay.
there's lots of that in this area.
Yes.
Okay. I think I can accept this as an approach for this one. Eleanor, Jennifer, questions, concerns?
I think I'm comfortable given the distance from the wetland.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of the paperwork, Ethan, you have the draft certificate of compliance and you have it checked off as complete. I mean, I'm wondering, should there be a note that, there's no as-built plans in the
I think that
certificate
would
of compliance?
be essential to have something like that indicated in the certificate, yes,
Yep, that's a good idea.
for future reference.
Mhm.
So would that, by documenting it in that way, would it prohibit us from having this certificate of compliance or no?
No, we would
Okay.
issue a certificate, but it would indicate that there are no as-built drawings attached with the certificate
Gotcha. Okay.
because there are no as-built drawings.
Okay.
It's just for us to note in case we ever look at it in the future.
Yeah,
Look
whether
for the
if you
as-built,
come
that's
back
all.
in the future for something else or a future homeowner comes back on your property for something, we need
Okay.
that all in our records.
Clear.
Okay. I think our action tonight would be to vote to issue a certificate of compliance with that special note that we do not have an as-built drawing, but that the conditions have been field verified by the conservation agent. And they're in compliance, substantial compliance with the order of conditions. So if you can draft something like that for us, Ethan, I think we can issue that.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ethan,
Do we need to make a motion to?
that's what I was going to suggest was we need either do it tonight or we wait another 2 weeks and do it, but I think we could get it off our plate tonight and give Ms. Walburn some comfort that she's done.
Thank you.
So a motion to issue a certificate with that caveat.
Yeah, I make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance, noting that there are no as-built plans included, but the agent field verified.
Compliance with the OOC.
Thank you. Compliance with the OOC.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor then, Eleanor,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank
You'll be
you.
receiving your certificate once Ethan processes all the appropriate documentation.
Great. Very
Thank
much
you.
appreciate your time. Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. The next is 2 Clyde Court. Do we have a field visit there yet to come?
Yes,
You do?
site visit, I think this Saturday.
Okay.
I think we
Hmm.
should table this until the next meeting because you haven't visited the site.
This was in reference to that second part where it says revote on issuance of COC. So in my research on this file, I came across that they had requested a COC and that it was issued. It was voted to be issued by the commission, but it was never physically issued. So I'm just looking for you guys to revote so I can get that issued. So this was about, I think it was November 2023. You voted to issue it. It just never got physically issued. So this is just to clear that up. And then I'm requesting a new vote just so we have it all in order as it should be.
So this is not, we're not acting on the request to remove the fence. We're basically revoting to issue the certificate of compliance as it was originally written because the original is missing.
Correct. It just happens to be, we're talking about it and I came across it in my research on that project, but this is unrelated to the fence site visit.
Okay. So that will come back to us once we've done our site visit and we'll make some decisions on that proposed removal.
Okay. I guess I was confused because, yeah, it had both requests on the agenda. I think I'm okay to reissue, like vote to reissue the certificate of compliance.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in favor of doing that because, I mean, for one thing, it's the basis of us going onto the property to evaluate it. So I think having it in place, even if we end up, I mean, I'm really interested to see this property, and kind of interested in the topic, but I think having a, order of conditions in effect seems important.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say there is one, we just can't track down an original in the files.
Yeah. And the vote is still valid. I just want to redo the vote, seeing as I wasn't there at the time and most of the commission is different from there at the time. So as far as just issuing that and making sure there's no problem getting it recorded, that's what the reissuing would do.
Okay. So I guess we need a motion to reissue the certificate of compliance that was issued previously for 2 Clyde Court.
I'll make a motion to reissue the orders of condition
I'm
for
sorry, OOC, yes.
2 Clyde Street.
No, it's a certificate of compliance, actually, Jennifer.
So It's
we're
a
issuing,
certificate of compliance.
yes,
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'll make a motion to reissue the certificate of compliance for 2 Clyde Street,
Clyde Court.
Clyde Court.
Does it say the wrong thing on the cert?
No, it's right on our agenda.
Okay.
Eleanor, can you second?
Oh,
it?
I can second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, Eleanor,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
now vote yes. So we'll reissue that certificate. We'll do our site visit this Saturday at 1, and we'll see where we go from there. Our next item on the agenda is the proposed wetland bylaw. The draft. And come to ground on whether we're going to bring it to this fall's town meeting or wait till the spring. So we have some communication from some of our department heads regarding proposing that we wait till spring.
So I guess the agenda was review draft bylaw, discuss public comments, choose public forum dates.
Right. We can do all of that,
Yeah,
but we also have to, I think we also need to discuss
the timing.
whether we're going to try to bring it this fall or wait till spring.
Okay.
Because if we're pushing to get it done this fall, we probably want to have all our public forums fairly quickly. If we are going to wait till spring, I would suggest we do public forums now, but also we may want to schedule additional sometime in the new year.
Yeah, I think the timeline is challenging already, and some of the requests, you know, from DPW to see regulations. I mean, I think that makes it even more challenging. I mean, their letter
I
was
think that's quite
pretty.
challenging, yeah, for us to develop a set of regulations and work through them and discuss them in time to make the fall town meeting. Is going to be a real challenge.
To get them back in front of DPW to get feedback again.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring up things that were raised by Tom Mullen when we spoke with him at February 18th meeting, and he reviewed the bylaw. You know, one thing he reiterated was we're an independent board, and we we are empowered by the state to be able to promulgate these regulations and bylaws, and that we can take those to town, to town meeting, which is a legislative body that decides. So there is, and we've explained this before, there is no requirement for other boards to approve. I'll say that. He reminded us that he felt this bylaw was long overdue, that he felt it was odd that Wakefield, which is on the larger, and I'm quoting him, better organized towns in the Commonwealth, doesn't have wetlands bylaws, and that many towns that are smaller and not anywhere near as sophisticated has them and greatly benefits from them, and that the last time these were even proposed was back in 1993. So he felt we should address it. In speaking with the bylaw review chair, he is also very supportive of us going to fall town meeting, because this is when you look at land use. This is when we have the technical expert who has literally written pretty much every bylaw in the surrounding communities, Attorney Bobrowski, and he we have him essentially on retainer to do the zoning work, but to also incorporate other land use things, which this falls in. So the timing is pretty critical now because he is going to be retiring. So I think we can get to a place where we can flush out some of these issues. I wanted to also remind everybody that Tom Mullen said we did not need regulations in place, that it was more important to get the bylaw in front of voters and the regulations could be refined.
Well, I
In a
don't
vote.
disagree that officially we don't need to
Yeah.
have regulations in place. On the other hand, I think we leave ourselves open to having a lot of concerns from the public if we don't have regulations in front of voters at the same time as we bring them a bylaw. I think that's, I think we're asking for a turn down.
Yeah, and I agree with all of what you're saying, Ella. I think all of that is true. I think I share the same concern with Paul about, you know, being really ready to address the concerns, not having comments against the bylaw coming from the DPW, and the planning board signed this letter. And in our meeting with them, they were quite supportive of the bylaw, but were also pretty clear in the letter dated this week that they would not support it or endorse it.
Can you sign that? Because that was not the plan. I mean, sorry, can you pull up the letter on the screen?
Sure.
But, you know, basic questions, what are the fees? I mean, that's something that would be included in the regulations.
Yes.
I mean, basic questions people would have, how much is this going to cost me? To be determined, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not seeing developing the regulations as very daunting. We already have a set of standard conditions that we use that can be the basis of our regulations, along with filing fees. But articles are due in 3 weeks.
I did.
Is the deadline.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
October 3rd is the deadline.
Yeah.
So virtually 2 weeks right now.
Yep. I did talk to Bill about it, and you know, he likes the Concord regulations, so we can look at those. They're very standard. So yeah, so honestly, the Concord bylaws, or sorry, the regulations are quite brief and to the point. I think, you know, Bill's raised some legitimate concerns. I think we do need to clarify how we're going to handle exemptions. I don't agree with the conclusions in this letter. I just think there's some, you know, edits that can be made to address the concerns. And then we have the draft regulations that we can work on. I did want to point out, sorry, with this letter, it's not the planning board. The planning board is an independent body.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but I think Aaron works closely with the planning board.
Right, but they are independently elected, and I did forward you to the group the request from a planning board member, you know, asking to, you know, kind of collaborate with us on town day and inviting us at their table to talk about the wetlands bylaw.
And I think that's not an unreasonable thing to do.
Right.
But I still think that's not going to get us to where we want to be with all of this.
Right. But we've had a challenge getting dates scheduled. Like Judy, we asked for the 23rd and 30th of this month. We're available to have public hearings, and we can use this as a working session. Are those dates available?
Yeah, I didn't get the Zoom request yet because I didn't know if you had to vote to pick those dates. I mean, Paul had sent the request last night and then this all came about today. So I wasn't sure what you were gonna do. Still be scheduled.
It-
I have to get the Zoom request from Sherry, but that's not a problem.
We can vote tonight to have those dates, and we can use that to get feedback. And we can use it for working. And then, sorry, the last point I wanted to bring up is the state is looking to, we saw with the Mass Saves legislation that they were putting out that they are looking to weaken some of the wetlands protections. We don't quite know how that's going to wind up, but it is important, I think, to have local protections in place. And we did kick this from the spring town meeting. So I'm certainly in favor of working hard and pushing this as far, doing a sprint and then evaluating at the end where we want to land. We still have, we can put in the bylaw request and focus on getting that fine-tuned into the October 3rd meeting. And then we have the month of October. We can have a draft regulations and we have the month of October to refine those because that can all be done out, during our session, and we can at least have a draft up and ready for people to look at.
Do we have,
Elaine has provided us her fees, sample fees.
no, that's, I
Sorry.
think that's the least of our worries. I think my questions are more around process. First, can we come in at the last minute with rules and regulations and include them in it, or do we have to present all our documentation now prior to at October 3rd or earlier in order to have it on the agenda?
The rules and regulations, according to Tom Mullen, can be promulgated outside of town meeting. That's just us.
I understand we can do that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a wise decision, Eleanor. I really worry that doing that is going to be waving a red flag in front of a bull for some of the folks who may not want us to do this in the first place. And we may also get opposition from our town engineer and public works director over that issue.
I think we are going to get opposition no matter what, even if we bring
I'm
it.
sure there will be opposition, but I'd rather not hand them something.
Can we take a?
Yeah, I'd also like to, I mean, I agree there's probably going to be some opposition or just, I would imagine there'd be reluctance from, people who it may affect and they have to change the way they work. But I would still like to be collaborative and know that we didn't or at least have the appearance that we rushed something through without consulting with all the stakeholders.
Sorry, I wanted to pull up your presentation again. Maybe I think I saw, can Can we take a comment?
Oh, Bronwyn has had her hand up for a while. Bronwyn, do you have something?
Yes, good evening. Brahman Telavopi, 8 Cyrus Street. I appreciate the debate here. I'm in full support of this bylaw and always have been, but I'm concerned because it's taken a very long time, and it doesn't seem to me, through my observations, that the bylaw's been really given a priority, a status here. It always seems to be pushed to the end of the agenda, and it really it needs to get done. Is there any way that you can manipulate the agenda to prioritize this and get it done? I'm not telling you to rush, because everyone's been doing tremendous background work, especially Jennifer Fanning and Eleanor Axelrod. But it just seems to me as if, an observation, that there's a lot of hurdles that are being placed in the way of getting this done. And I understand that some of those are reasonable, and you have to have debate so that you cover all your bases. But if you did push this through, and there is time, I think, for the public meetings, and got it on town meeting, there's always going to be objection to anything that's on the town meeting warrant. I urge you to please not to do something because you know there's going to be objections. There's always going to be objections. I do have a question. Is it required, necessary, or unusual to have all these other boards weighing in, particularly because you guys are an independent committee? I think collaboration's a great thing. But in this particular instance, because I've been following along with this over the last many, many months, that again, this seems to be a hurdle that's been placed in the way of getting this done. Frankly, as a Wakefield taxpayer and resident, I'm embarrassed that Wakefield doesn't have this kind of bylaw. Many towns much smaller than Wakefield, and with less finances, less money, have shown their priority for protecting the environment. So, I see both ends of this, but can we try to get this done, please? I think now is a good time. I think that it would be received well at town meeting. I think people want to protect the environment, and some may have questions, but don't not do it because you're concerned about pushback. And if someone here could please explain to me in detail why all these other town people are weighing in on the bylaw, and if that's required and necessary or helpful. Thank you.
I think they're weighing in on the bylaw because in the case of engineering and public works, they believe it affects their operations. And they want a clear indication of what it means. We certainly heard that
Right.
when Ethan and I met with Bill Renault. We heard that very clearly, that he wanted to see both the bylaw and the proposed regulations to understand how that would affect his operations. And I think that's clear in the message that they sent to us today.
But isn't it his responsibility, or Aaron Kokinda's responsibility, or Joe Conway's responsibility to do their work within the bylaw once it's passed? I mean, yes, they can
Precisely,
have
but
concerns, but
I do not want to go to town meeting and have the director of public works or the town engineer stand up in opposition to a proposed bylaw. I think that would be a rather bad outcome for us.
Right.
I do see your
Or to
point.
say I don't know the implications because the regulations aren't clear yet. I mean, the regulations are not voted on in town meeting, so that is an area where the commission, also has discretion. But I think understandably people would want to know, have an idea, and several people have asked what the regulations would be.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, Town Councilor Mayo did inform the town council we were working on this like months and months ago. I think it was mentioned maybe in November, and certainly in the early winter. It has been a challenge from my perspective to move this forward. I think I'm not sure why internally we're kind of dragging our feet. We had challenges getting the draft bylaw put on the website. I still cannot find your presentation. So if someone wants to provide feedback on the bylaw and fill out that form, that they have nothing really to look at to put it into context. Ethan, do you know where that wound up?
The presentation?
Yeah, like I had trouble finding it. I know it's somewhere, but it's really hard to find.
I think it's on the forms and policies, right under the link for the public comment. Last time I looked.
I was unable to find it myself.
You said you were, or you were not?
I was not able to find it.
So, I mean, that's kind of a hurdle, a couple of administrative hurdles with the redesign. But going back to the interference, like we worked on this, we presented to we've talked about this publicly. We presented to the bylaw review committee, I think in March. We finally had a chance to do our first outreach to the boards, and immediately we received a letter from the Department of Public, the director of the Department of Public Works to cease and desist presenting. I think he has a perspective on this, and I just think we need to, there's a lack of coordination about yes, we need their input, but it's, every time we bring this up, we're getting a letter, we object. We haven't had a chance to even really address the comments. So I'm a little bit personally uncomfortable, but I think no matter what, they are probably going to come to town meeting, and whether it's in the spring or the fall, they're going to object. But what is great is we have their concerns listed, and we can do our best to try and address them. And that's all I can say. But I do, and we can also do, sorry, one last thing, a working session, like a final thing on a Saturday or something in a room that's videotaped. That's another thought, and just hammer things out for 3 hours.
I went on the website under forms and policies, which I do think we told people that's where it would be. And it's right there. The presentation deck is right there under the bylaw draft.
It's when you click on the alert to do it, you can't find it. That's the challenge.
Is that because of the new website?
It's the new website.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think I did say that in the last presentation, to go to the website, go to the Conservation Department forms and policies because of that issue, which is outside of our control.
Yeah.
I think the alert was put out before we had uploaded the presentation as well. So
where are the forms and policies on our page?
If you click on Conservation Department,
I'm there.
forms and policies.
Yeah. It's really hard to.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I don't mean to interject in your meeting, but I've been with my hand for a while.
Yes.
If the chair of this committee can't even find your own forms on your webpage, how is the public supposed to find those? Scott McCauley, 32 Walden Road. I really don't understand how other boards and committees in town, and Aaron Kinkinder, who's the economic development person who shouldn't have anything to do with your board because it's a conflict of interest. I don't understand how they're weighing in and telling you as elected board members that you would have to do something. If I were you, I would just put it on your agenda, schedule out your timelines to try and get this done, before the filing date. If you can't get it done, then you can't get it done, but at least you tried in removing goalposts forward and forward. I wouldn't let the rest of these town people push you around on this because they have nothing to do with this. I understand, Paul, to your point that you want to have their backing. You don't need their backing going to town meeting. There's been other boards. You have the right as a committee, as an elected committee, to put forth any article you want. You don't need anybody's permission. And it's nice to have support of the other boards, but they should be rallying behind you. Wakefield is a hole in the middle of the sea of other towns that all have these already. And it's been way too long of this not happening. And I think at this point to try and push it off to September again would be really dropping the ball on your part. And I really think that you should try and at least schedule it and get public input. If anything, you'll get more information to keep moving this forward. So even if you don't meet that goal for getting it onto this one, you'll definitely be that much further ahead for the next one. That would be my own 2 cents. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but I felt I needed to. Sorry.
And I don't think that it's quite accurate to say that, at least, speaking for myself, that I'm somehow, intimidated and wanting to drop the wetlands bylaw because, these boards that, I agree, ultimately they don't have to sign off on this, but I'm really primarily thinking about residents of Wakefield who are going to be listening to the discussion. Many of whom, I'm sure, most of whom want to, see better protections for, natural resources in Wakefield, but are also, many of them homeowners and have that concern as well. So I'm thinking about what they're going to be hearing in town meeting and how, how they'll be taking that on board. And I don't think it's without consequence because my understanding is if it doesn't pass, we can't put it forward for another 3 years. I'm in favor of an
I think
accelerated
it's
timeline
important to move
for.
this bylaw along. And I would like to get it adopted. My preference would be to get it done this fall, but I really think we're facing a calendar issue and we're facing issues with presenting a set of rules and regulations that, while they may not have to be passed at the same town meeting, should be available for everyone to read and understand before they vote on a bylaw. Because I think it's essential that the package be clear and understood. I don't want to have to say at town meeting, well, we'll be getting to that later. I think that would be a bad result if we end up doing that.
Could you offer just one simple example of something that's in the bylaw that would need a regulation backup? Just an example to show us what you're talking about, please.
I think, for example, our performance standards, the ones that go into the standard conditions, if we want those to be our regulations, I think that's something we should discuss.
Are the regulations part of the bylaw?
The regulations are enabled by the bylaw. Absent a bylaw, we can't issue regulations.
Right, right.
But they should be part and parcel of the same package. We can act on the regulations subsequent to the town meeting, or we can act on the regulations because we can't act on the regulations before the town meeting, since there will not be a bylaw enabling us to issue regulations.
You have, my understanding is you have the draft regulations up there.
Right. That's
Not, you don't take those to town meeting, you have them on the website.
right. We want to have draft regulations in front of people so that they see what our complete package is.
I'm in favor of having a special meeting to work on the bylaw because I also think that realistically to to try to do the work that's needed on the bylaw does require more than what we can realistically do in a regular meeting. When we have notices of intent that have deadlines attached to them, we do have to prioritize those other ones because they have deadlines on them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would like to, and that was one of my goals for today, was to discuss having a special meeting for us to focus on the bylaw.
we suggest, if Eleanor suggested the 23rd and the 30th, I'm willing to meet both of those.
Yeah.
evenings if We need to.
That's Tuesdays. I'd be also willing to do a Saturday. I could even do another night in the week.
Well, if those 2 Tuesdays work, I think we should be able to get accomplished a fair amount. In terms of dealing with both the draft of the bylaw and the regulations.
I think we need to look at, well, we can see if there's other feedback we've gotten on the bylaw so far and what our issues are we need to address. And then we need to divide and conquer, so that we come back to the next meeting, kind of ready to refine. But, I think a couple more alerts, Ethan, like we can update and get feedback on the bylaw, let people know the presentation is out there.
Provide them with a path to
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah. I think we can certainly engage with Joe and Bill Renault, and Aaron on their concerns. That's fine. But again, I just want to clarify, they're not representing boards, they're representing, their employees.
They're part of the town administration. And they're people we do need to work with.
We do.
And I'm not willing to just thumb our noses at them either.
No, I think Jennifer's raised a good point too about, how important it is to get it right.
Right. I don't want to lose this.
No, but I'd rather sprint now and then, we can always submit it and then pull it too. Not that we want to do that, but we can sprint and try as hard as we can. And once, we get to the submission deadline, kind of take a decision.
A lot of things have to happen very quickly and on time. If there
Mhm.
is any chance for it to be on fall, which again, I'm reluctant to make that it is not my primary goal. My primary goal is to have a bylaw that gets passed.
Mhm.
I
We
agree.
talked at one point about having, inviting stakeholders, people who work a lot with the Wetlands Protection Act, meaning, the engineering firms that come before the commission, to get their feedback. What do they see that we might be overlooking or missing? I mean, our bylaw is from a template, it's widely used, so it's not like we've developed this from whole cloth. But we talked about doing that. If we are serious about doing that, we have to, I think, go ahead and notify firms. And we see, Hayes Engineering in front of us a lot. I don't know if I could name other ones off the top of my head, but
Hayes is the one that comes to mind. Who was the engineer we saw tonight, though?
Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're not going to be
Rich
showing up.
Williams. What firm is he with?
I think it's Williams and Sprague, maybe.
Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
I think the single most critical thing is to get in front of as many people as possible and educate them about the bylaw and get them to show up to town meeting. These engineers are not going to go to town meeting. So I think it's.
But we need their feedback on the bylaw. And I think Jennifer raises an important point that if we're trying to get stakeholders buy-in, they're an important stakeholder in what we do.
or at least even just to say we reached out, we sought input.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not sure how you get people to come to town meeting. I mean, our attendance at our meetings ranges from, where are we, 8 right now to maybe 20. I'm not sure how we're going to get large numbers of people. Let's start going and showing up at church groups and the like to make presentations. Or other civic groups.
I think, so one question is for if we have a special meeting, we're talking about the 23rd and the 30th. And then how do those dates relate to public presentations? Are we talking about making changes before going before the public again? Or do we want to go before? I mean, I think we have to, if we're gonna get public
Those-
feedback, we have to then have time for us to incorporate it and make changes. So we may need to, we
Those
might be
are,
talking about two
those
special meetings.
dates would have to be public meetings.
Yeah. You'd have to do both. I don't think, we've really heard from anybody, so it's really hard to register how people feel. The people, I guess I'm talking to are not sitting in on our meetings, but they're very enthusiastic. That's it. I share your concerns. I do want to get this right. I am concerned that we have kicked this down the road so long, and just think we need to give ourselves sort of a kick in the behind just to see how far we can get and not have doubts. We did have two attorneys look at this already and thought it was solid. I think we're kind of swirling in circles at this point, and we just need to get out, talk to people and push that survey out with links to the material, and get feedback.
Yeah, I agree. We need to do a push and it needs to be different because it has been on our agenda and we do rarely get anyone coming to, we had something called bylaw presentation.
Right.
On two different agendas, and I think Bron, you were at one, and but we don't have people showing up for those. But I mean, it is important for us to get feedback because I would rather hear the questions ahead of time that people are concerned about so that we can incorporate it and not hear about it and be thinking about it for the first time in town meeting, which is why the volume of responses is important.
Yeah. I don't think it was clear on the agenda that it was open to the public when it was labeled wetland presentation, or that people could comment. So I think something we could do is take the first 45 minutes of our meeting and just make that a fixed topic going forward.
Well, I think the two meetings we're talking about as special meetings, that's what they will be, is focused on this.
Yes.
Those were publicly noticed meetings because they are public meetings. We cannot, the three of us, meet without that happening anyway.
Yes, but you are free to go and talk to church groups with a presentation and explain it to them, Paul.
Yes. Individually, we could.
Individually.
We can talk to civic groups or whomever, but two of us cannot right now. We could talk to them. We cannot talk to each other and come to any conclusions, though.
And we don't have another meeting scheduled before October 3rd.
No, that's why we try to schedule these two 20th
meetings.
and 30th.
Right.
More than one of you can be there if you make it a meeting. Call it a meeting and have it posted as a meeting. That's what every other committee does. If you're going to be at a place to discuss something, call it a meeting, have it posted as a meeting, and then have 2 or 3 of you go, and you're all covered.
Do we have to post the town day as a meeting?
Town day?
I don't,
Yeah.
know. I mean, you could ask Tom Moan, but I think that came up last year. I mean, you're not talking about any issues in front of you.
Yeah.
Any filings.
As long as you're not deliberating.
Brian?
I think Scott McCulley has his hand up. Did Brian McGrail have his hand up?
Brian did not. He seemed to be saying something. I
That,
didn't.
that was me that was making the comment. You can go
Okay.
to town day and the three of you can be there, so long as you're not deliberating on topics. If you're there talking to the public and talking to them about what your role is in the town, you can do that so long as you're not communicating amongst each other, making determinations about existing things you have, then you're not violating. I did have a question about your bylaws. Is there anything in the bylaws as you have it drafted that's different than how you operate currently? Or are you just solidifying with the bylaw what you currently do?
The bylaw extends protections to isolated wetlands and vernal pools, which are currently not jurisdictional unless they fall under another jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay.
We would also be formalizing the 25-foot setback in the buffer, which I think most developers at this standpoint seem to view as standard, and they come to us with that. So really, the challenging part is those additional protections.
I think it's standard because most other towns around us do that already, so.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you said, Scott.
I said they probably ask you those questions because most other towns around us, it's probably required within their bylaws that they currently have. So they're used to operating that way. So I don't think it would be anything outside of what anybody else if you look at the map of the towns around us, we're an island.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that none of this is new to everybody that's operating outside of Wakefield. So, you know, as far as Joe Conway and Bill Renault, they need to work with you. There's nothing that you do that would require them, but everything that they do would require information and guidance from you. So you're really calling the cards in all this, and I know that you want to partner in them, but really they shouldn't be dictating how you do this. I applaud you for wanting to kind of push this forward because I think it's important. And I think that I don't think that you're going to get much pushback. You know, keep in mind that early October is the filing date, but then you still have from October, November to finalize the rest of the information to put out before the town as far as all of the structure of it. The words eluding me. It's late. Sorry.
Again, my primary concern is how it's received and supported by Wakefield residents, and less so. I'm less so worried about it inconveniencing, you know, developers who I agree do these things already for other towns. These are standard in other towns, and more so the impacts on Wakefield residents and what Wakefield residents will see it as a benefit, and you know, trust that it's something that's been thought out and vetted.
And I don't mean any disrespect by saying this, but your biggest audience that you're going to have is going to be sitting in that hall that day. Getting people to know about what you're doing prior to you showing up at town meeting is good luck at best, because it's a lot of people don't pay attention to what's going on in town. There's a small minority that do. And just keep in mind, because you don't necessarily see people at your meetings doesn't mean that people aren't watching these meetings online afterwards. I watch quite a number of these online after the fact because I don't always have time to be at these meetings to try and keep up with what's going on. But there's 40 different boards in town. It's hard to do that with all the boards. But, you know, getting information out to the papers, a couple of articles written, you're not going to be the big draw for town meeting. But there will be people at town meeting. The biggest thing is how you sell it at town meeting. So you're going to have, there's only a limited number of people that are going to be there that day. You just need to get a majority vote for that day. So I would leave it up to you in putting it all together, but I would support you as best I could.
So it sounds like we probably need to schedule at least, well, 2 special meetings for ourselves,
Mhm.
and 2 public hearings.
Well,
Oh,
if we schedule special meetings on the 23rd and the 30th, they will also be public.
mhm.
Will be public, but I'm talking about for an opportunity for us to,
Put a notice out there asking for public feedback.
well, and to discuss and resolve the issues that have been raised,
Mhm.
Discuss and resolve issues, I'm sorry.
that have been raised.
I'm
You know,
assuming that's what we're going to be doing in these next 2 sessions.
Well, I think we're talking about trying to do a couple of things, consider and incorporate feedback and collect feedback.
Right.
Have
Okay.
we gotten it? Oh, so I guess we can discuss with the feedback we've gotten thus far, or the key issues we need to address. I think maybe at this point, we should also pencil in additional dates in October to meet for public hearings if they're interested, public learning sessions.
Okay, our meetings in October should be the 7th and the 21st, right?
Mhm.
We could schedule a public session in between those 2
Yeah,
on the 14th.
I think probably need 2 of them. 14th and one right before the meeting,
But what's the date of the town meeting?
the 8th of November. Do we want to look at the feedback we've gotten thus far? Did we get anything, Ethan, through the
Sure, I'll pull it
email
up in a
portal?
second.
And as you're pulling that up, I am looking through our deck, and I think it'd be good to blow up and make signs, the picture of the map where Wakefield is an island, and
Yes.
slide 15 and 16 that compare communities and local bylaws.
So we had 3. Is this too small? Where can you see it?
I can't read any of that.
It's from, I think we saw. I've heard a lot of comments about invasive removals.
Mm.
So we have to address that through an FAQ.
Yeah.
Because really nothing would change from,
There's nothing in our bylaw and there's nothing.
yeah. And then the second one was, this is necessary to protect our town. Thank you.
And the third is Julie Scott's comment.
Okay. Okay, so she's suggesting we put the
Basically,
meetings.
she's suggesting that we make things much more accessible than they have been.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a chronic problem. The website, especially with the transition, is even somewhat less transparent rather than more.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's outside our control,
Yes.
although I do think, Ethan, we have the potential to reorganize pages like that.
I'm sure potentially reorganizing. I think the general theme has to stay the same.
But we can't do a shortcut to, you have a shortcut to open space and rec plan. You can't do a shortcut to bylaw, like along the side, proposed bylaw.
I'm sure we could do that.
Okay. I think if we could get it heightened and then it's a page that has all that stuff. That would be my suggestion. I think Bill does raise, we can look at the concerns. I think some of it was permitting around construction projects, like for some of their road work and things like that.
Yeah, I noticed that. I thought that the bylaw had a sort of mirrored the WPA in terms of its exemptions, but then I was looking at the language and it's really pretty stripped down. It's worth comparing it again.
Yeah, I did pull it up and I started taking notes and looking. I went back and looked at Linfield and I thought we could include a preamble that kind of, for example, that specifically addressed what's changing. Yeah, and as I looked back, the exemptions and exceptions, I think we could definitely do like a paragraph C, or, you know, when we go through them and look at a standard one for kind of town, you know, town maintenance or really that exempts the town from maintaining or the bylaw from.
Yeah, we need a paragraph that mirrors B that specifically talks to what the town does to maintain its infrastructure.
Correct. And there are things like, you know, the WPA exempts existing lawns, or, you know, so making sure it's clear to people that if they have a lawn that goes to, you know, the 15 foot line today, we're not going to tell them stop mowing your lawn. Like would be an exemption.
Yeah. So we need to add that paragraph here in section 4.
Yeah. Ethan, have you seen examples where they have a standard sort of existing conditions exemption?
What do you mean by existing
Like,
condition?
well, I mean, like,
oh, like the lawn, you mean?
Yeah, like
Lawn, pavement. I mean,
I haven't
an
seen
example
anything.
is Main Street.
Mhm.
As an existing condition should be exempt where it's close to the edge of Lake Quannapowitt. We do not want to be regulating maintenance activities on Main Street there.
I haven't seen anything other than what the Wetlands Protection Act says.
yeah,
Or
and
is that?
we can't exempt them from the Wetlands Protection Act, so they're already covered under it, so we can exempt them from the bylaw for that work. I think that was the big thing, and the regulations. I don't know if we have anybody who's on here who's in the position to comment.
To comment on what?
Oh, on other parts that we've heard.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you creating all streams as perennial? It looks like it was rewritten to be a 200-foot setback, the riverfront setback for intermittent and perennial streams. I don't think that was discussed.
What section is it?
At the
Sorry.
beginning.
Beginning, hang on.
I think it's under definitions maybe at the start.
I think it's in jurisdiction, which
Okay.
refers to streams without making a distinction.
Yeah, I think that happened in the process of our group editing, honestly, when we were looking at that paragraph. And I think that's a good point. Juliet,
It's a bad way to go.
let's just read that.
The way it's worded, it looks like everything is perennial. Other bylaws that you look at, it says there's a separation between intermittent and perennial.
Right, that's one of the statistics we look at, and most places don't have additional protections for intermittent streams.
Right, but why is Wakefield doing a 200-foot?
Right, well, I think it looks that way because I think we don't make a distinction currently.
Yeah, I think it needs to be clarified because the way it's written, it looks like there is no separation.
In jurisdiction,
Yes,
The same protections would extend to an intermittent stream and a perennial stream currently because the bylaw doesn't distinguish between those two types.
right, but I think it should just,
jurisdiction
Yeah,
only
no,
talks about perennial stream, river, brook, or creek.
right, but you're not saying intermittent, you're only saying perennial.
Can I share my screen? Because I'm struggling to even find that language. Sorry. Just looking at that. Or does somebody have it up that they can share easily?
Just closed it.
Okay. Yeah,
It's in jurisdiction, section A, the following resource areas. Oh, I see, it does say any perennial stream.
So what are we thinking that should be?
I think it's fine if it says perennial.
So you want a 200-foot setback for an intermittent stream.
Where does it say that, Judy?
No, I don't think it says that currently.
It doesn't call out intermittent. So as you read that, you could read it as rivers, brook, stream, it's all perennial. You say perennial rivers.
Oh, I see, perennial stream, river, brook, or creek.
Right. So that leads you to believe that it's all perennial.
I'm still stuck on that. I'm not seeing it. Would
I'm
it?
not sure I understand what you're saying, Judy. You're saying that
Let me just see.
I think we
It
want
says-
to distinguish that it specifically applies to perennial. That's my understanding.
I think
ahead.
it says the stream is perennial, but as far as the rivers and brooks, it doesn't distinguish
Right.
intermittent and perennial. Is that what you're saying?
All
I think
perennial, and then listed everything where it says perennial stream and then a comma, it looks like that's separating it. If you said all perennial resources and then list them all. All perennial, colon, stream, river, brook, creek.
any perennial stream, river, brook, or creek. It would seem to me that
Yeah, how do you
in
fix
my
that?
read of construction, perennial should apply to all of the words following it.
Yeah, like,
Right, but then where does intermittent fit in? Then you're not saying that there is intermittent streams, you're giving them all perennial status.
I'm still not seeing where you're seeing any well, we're
not
saying
giving them
perennial,
all
not
perennial status. We're saying that any perennial stream, river, brook, or creek and adjoining land.
Right, but where do you call it intermittent?
Where do we call it intermittent? That's what I'm looking for.
It was 200,
not.
and intermittent would be 100, but that's not called out. So it
So
would,
we need to add the language for intermittent stream.
correct.
We also need to fix at the end of this riverfront area, there needs to be a semicolon. After that, the word any needs a colon, not a semicolon after it.
Can you go slow? Sorry. Okay.
So,
Land-
yeah, so again, just to be clear, most bylaws don't extend protections to intermittent streams. That would be pretty unusual.
Yeah.
So I think we're in line with what most places do by saying that perennial streams, rivers, brooks, and creeks are covered.
Right. But if you're looking at this and you have a perennial stream in your yard, you could read it and say, well, you don't mention intermittent streams, so I guess there's no standard for me. If you're not calling it out, but you're only calling out perennial. And the way I read it is, you're saying all rivers and streams are perennial, the way it's written there.
No.
Because
We
So
are
you're
saying any perennial stream, river, brook, or creek is subject to our regulation.
Right,
But it has to be a perennial stream, river, brook, or creek.
right. But what about intermittent river, brooks, or creeks?
We're not saying anything about intermittent river, brooks, streams, or brook, or creek because they're not regulated here.
So they're not regulated under the bylaw.
I don't see them regulated anyplace here.
Right.
Are you saying you want them regulated or they?
I'm just asking for clarification of what you meant in that sentence. So you just mean perennial streams?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I'm confused as to what was
Were you intending something otherwise, Eleanor?
No, I wasn't. I'm still stuck on how we can make this clearer because I wasn't interpreting it that it
I read
applied
it as
to.
any perennial stream, river, brook, or creek.
The land under any.
Adjoining lands out to 200 feet, known as the riverfront area. And then I'm not sure why that's italicized and the rest of it is not, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Any.
That needs to be fixed and as we get to clean this up.
And that should have a colon, right?
After the word
semicolon.
river, after the two words riverfront area, we put a semicolon.
Right.
And then after that, the next word any, that should be a colon, not a semicolon. Because any, otherwise, it makes no sense.
Wouldn't it be any bank, comma?
Bank, semicolon, freshwater wetland, marsh, wet meadow, bog, swamp, etc.
Vernal pool. Okay. I think that's clear. We're not saying we're going to put 200 feet in front of a wetland, right? Because that. Oh, you know what this
Are
needs
we
to
adding
be?
vernal
No.
pool to this? Because if we are, we need to make sure. Does a freshwater wetland include a vernal pool?
There's a
Freshwater.
presumption of a vernal pool habitat in the bylaw.
Because I'm just reading this right now again. And we say any bank, freshwater wetland, marsh, wet meadow, etc. We never call out vernal pool. We call out lands within 100 feet of a vernal pool. But we don't call out the vernal pool. So I just want to make sure that if we're trying to regulate vernal pools, we do that here as well. We make
That's a
sure
good
we
idea.
call them out.
Think of vernal pool as a type of isolated wetland. So as long as isolated wetlands are protected, then that would be included also.
No, we don't seem to use the word isolated anywhere, Ethan.
And isolated wetlands are under the freshwater wetlands, I guess, depending on how it's written.
Right. Yeah, I think it's technically covered, but just for readability and for people who are going to be interpreting this, it would probably be good to list vernal pools.
Yeah. Where do we have isolated wetland here?
We do not.
Okay.
Ethan was suggesting that any freshwater wetland includes isolated freshwater wetlands, and I can see that.
Yeah.
Just gonna make a note. Okay.
So what I would suggest, Eleanor, is we eliminate the italics completely. I don't know, are you carrying on the formatting of this in a Word version?
Yeah.
Okay. So we
this is-
eliminate the italics there because they don't carry through everything else. And then put a semicolon after riverfront area. And then after the next word, any, put a colon there. And then you can go on with bank, freshwater wetland. If we wanted to be for clarity purposes, we could say parenthetic, including isolated wetlands.
Bog, swamp, okay, you're thinking here.
Right after freshwater wetland. If you want to be clear, include the parenthetic, include a parenthetic, freshwater wetland, including isolated wetland. If we think that's important to be that clear.
I think what were other comments? I did go back. I mean, we can fine tune these things, but I starred things that we had that were a little different.
And we don't have a lot of comments so far.
No. I did have a come to Jesus moment on the bank definition. And after talking with Elaine further, that it probably just makes sense to keep it consistent with the regulation definitions. I think her point overall is where we have a definition. If we want to deviate, it should be really different. Otherwise, make it consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act.
So are you suggesting we delete the definition of bank here?
I wouldn't delete it. I would just keep it consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act. This is
means eliminating the word higher and making that lower.
correct.
Okay.
Because it's such a technical nuance. Again, it's inches, like, you know, it's debatable. Whereas the Winchester definition, I think they use like it's a kind of artistic, I almost want to call it an artistic definition. It's, you know, mounding and
So my two issues with the bank were protecting the bank itself, but the setback should do that,
yeah,
right? So
that's where I kind of, yeah, got comfort with that.
yeah. And it is, I mean, sometimes that lower bank really does leave a fair amount of feet that is a different habitat, which is kind of unfortunate, but
We can look at Winchester's definition.
I am also kind of sympathetic to wanting things to be efficient and not multiply work that people
Yeah.
have to pay for as they wrestle with multiple definitions, you know.
Yeah.
Wetlands Protection Act and bylaw.
If there's a reason to deviate from the Wetlands Protection Act, I'd say let's consider that. But if there's not, then I think we should try to stay consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's our objective to extend a much broader area of protection for banks than the WPA does, then we can do that. But
Well, you know, again, the setback does that to an extent.
yeah,
That was my conclusion.
so we'll leave it as the WPA's definition.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. Whichever is lower, yeah. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that people brought up. in the planning board meeting, it was brought up by one of the members that, his preference was to have, to touch on the key things in the bylaw and not necessarily remove things because we weren't changing it. Like subtle definitions, that type of thing. I suddenly, when I reread this, I looked at telegraph, and I wasn't sure if we still have telegraph lines anywhere.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I think we can come up with nuances here. Ethan, I think that you had sent us that property where we can look at how we would apply the bylaw to that.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I don't think it'll impact existing homeowners the way we're thinking about it. It's just making sure the language aligns with it.
Yeah, I think in that case, the isolated wetland wouldn't be jurisdictional due to the size. It should be pretty consistent with what we have today. As far as additional regulations, I don't think there would be too much there.
For the isolated wetlands?
Yeah, we have a minimum 1,000 square feet.
So it was interesting. I was talking to Elaine about that more. And she said one of the issues with applying a threshold like that is in a place where you might have a lot of those people who are just under that threshold, can fill it, and then it can impact their neighbors. Whereas somebody who's just over the threshold might not. And I don't know, she talked about the concept of sort of as people, as these plots of land get more and more dense and people are allowed to do that, that you're impacting water storage more and more. And so Winchester, for example, took the approach where they just pretty much don't have a threshold and they look at them all because the houses are so close together, like where development is happening, that the likelihood of impacting somebody could be significant. So it was a different approach.
Do you think we should remove that threshold? Or
I think we got to get
just-
feedback. I think we got to get feedback from the public, but I hadn't thought about it that way.
Winchester has a lot, they have gigantic houses on a lot smaller lots. I think that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I want to have some limit on the kind of burden that gets put on people that we end up saying it's fine. And also, I mean, that does go onto our agenda. So I do support having a minimum threshold, and we did have support for that particular one. I mean, obviously, if people have feedback, that will be really helpful. But it's not arbitrary.
Okay. Nope, that's a good point. Was there anything else, Ethan, that you think we missed that was brought up by Bill?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything that I had heard.
I think you
the
include
regulations.
exemptions, adding a C to the exemptions, right, Eleanor?
Yeah. I think we probably want one for the town, and then probably if we need to make it more clear, just look at that. Is that clear enough for existing homeowners?
Well,
I know Linfield took, Judy brought this up a long time ago, which was Linfield took the, exempting sort of existing homes built by a certain date. But a lot of those homes were built on these massive lots, and they have, they have large areas to work with. And
yeah, we do not.
no,
I
So I
guess
could-
my question is, are you suggesting that we exempt the existing structures? And if you're suggesting that, then do we also exempt? Where do we do not exempt additions to those structures?
I think we have to look and
Because
see.
we've been reviewing those.
Yeah. No, I mean, our approach has been somebody else permitted this. This is what it's 15 feet from the wetland. It's not what we would do today. But what can we do to minimize sort
Right.
of more impacts, or what can you do to improve it? So I think it's finding I know every other town has grappled with this issue, so I think we just need to make sure we're incorporating that language in a clear way. I thought initially that it was implicit in how we had written this, but having put this down and then looking at it again, I can see how somebody could interpret it that way. I think at the end of the day, we would say to somebody, we don't want you to move closer to the house. If you're going to put it on an addition, put it on the back side of your house. Just don't make it worse. So I think that's the big piece.
There's a there's a recap document from the meeting with DPW. They recommend removing definitions like date of issuance, rare species, person, because they're defined in WPA.
Oh, let me just write that down. Put it right in here. There is okay. Just remove this.
What are you removing?
Well, I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to leave the comment, and then I can circulate this for people, to kind of people think about. So this one was, because I didn't post this. Date of issuance. Okay. So it's DPW, remove date of issuance.
Person,
What was the other? Okay.
person, rare species.
Is there anything else?
I think we wanna compare. Let me take a look at vernal pool.
Was this included? So, for example, I guess we should ask if, Are there any of these groups that get special exemptions from wetlands bylaws normally? And is there a reason why these are defined, or is this the same as the Wetlands Protection Act? Sorry, did they say?
We're talking, what paragraph are you in?
Sorry, I'm looking at paragraph 5 and 7. It's because they're defined in the Wetlands Protection Act.
Paragraph 5, part what? Section 5, or we're talking about
The definition
definition?
section, they had said date of issuance, person, and rare species. To remove those, I think I was typing and didn't hear you, Jennifer, because they're already in the
Yeah, they're in the WPA, so they don't need to be duplicated.
Yeah, if they're
Okay.
already in the WPA, I agree. They should go away.
Okay. Do you want me to delete it now?
I would do that in the next version you want to circulate.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Person. Vernal pool. Anything? Any other comments?
You mentioned some
Um,
things earlier, was that, oh, did I mishear that?
What's
Say
that?
that, Judy?
About fees, did you mention something about fees earlier?
We haven't actually generated a fee schedule yet, have we?
Well, I thought you match what what's in the act, whatever is charged. If it were just the bylaw that was, the person had to use, if they didn't have to file a notice of intent.
They don't have to file under the WPA, but do have to file under our bylaw. They would pay the same fee as proposed under the WPA, I believe.
That's what I thought, okay.
Am I correct in that, Eleanor, Jennifer?
I think that was our approach. That's what we were thinking.
Yes, okay.
Do we talk about fees here? I feel like
That's in the
Tom,
regulations typically.
had me remove it and put it in the regulations.
I believe that's correct. So that's part of what we have to develop.
Ethan, do you have time to work on taking Concord's regulations and inserting sort of that fee table that you had gotten from Elaine and seeing if there are any other pieces in the regulations we maybe need to address?
Sure, I can definitely get that started.
there were some other, let's see, one second.
But to have like a working sort of draft that we can look at before the 23rd. And you might as well flip it to Bill and Joe. I think, Bill's the subject matter expert. And just see if there's any other regs we should think about including.
What were the dates of the forms? The 23rd, 30th, 14th, and what was the 4th?
Look,
I'm not sure we scheduled it for it yet, did we?
I think we should just get it on the calendar. I mean, have Judy see that it's available.
Okay.
Sorry, April. I'm looking at my phone. So we said October. So the two meetings are going to be the 7th and the 21st. So it'd be the 14th and the 28th.
Okay, so the agenda for the 23rd and 30th, is that for further edits to the bylaw? And then the 14th and the 28th are public presentations or something else?
I think ideally the 23rd, if we could use the first part of the meeting to gather public input, we can do your presentation again. And then we can use it as a working session to look at the feedback we've gotten and see where we need to fine tune.
Okay, and then we also want to schedule a 30th for the same thing.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to hammer. I think we definitely have to vote to send a, like, for example, we would have to, if we're gonna do it, we have to vote to send a warrant article to town meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that should
that
probably be on
before
the
the
agenda
3rd.
then.
Yeah. What? If we did it, that's, you put it, it's, I think it's easier to put something on the agenda and cancel it, right? Like that would be the drop dead. We have to decide if we're gonna vote to refer it to town meeting, and then we submit the warrant to town council.
We do not have another meeting before the 3rd of October, which is the date for submittal to town meeting. Therefore, we need to vote tonight.
Wait. 9/16, but we're gonna meet on, sorry, we're meeting on the 23rd of
Okay, so,
September.
yeah, that's true. Those will be public
And the
meetings.
September
I guess you're right.
30th.
We can do it on the 30th if we feel we're prepared at that point.
Yeah, and can we get one more session? You know, is there another date we can agree on to put out there to just hammer through? I would just put in, if we can find a working session for us to fine
Well,
tune.
be another public meeting, so it'd be that's why I was suggesting the 14th.
Of October?
Yeah,
Yes, so the 14th and the 20. Yes, the 14th and the 28th.
can we make changes that close?
Not to the, well, you can still do a floor amendment. I think you want it to be buttoned up though, ahead of time.
We do
It's,
not want to change the bylaw. If we're gonna,
No,
the regulations don't go to town meeting, I guess, but we need to have them done.
yes, so the regulations, we can have a draft up there. We can fine tune it. We can also work on fine tuning our presentation to town meeting and answering questions, because people invariably ask questions and we don't have the information handy. So you want to fine tune our presentation, like to just talk through that feedback. Okay, what do we need to go through town meeting? It's certainly better to have more time than less time. And I think I might have to switch to standing because I'm sitting all day too. So, so do we want to just recap on next steps?
I have a few more things that were
Yeah.
from feedback on the bylaw. This was things we discussed in June. We took out the section on demonstrating that a vernal pool is not a vernal pool. We decided to take that out because it essentially is unworkable. It's not realistic.
Do you want to take that out now?
Yeah. We took out the 1, 2, 3. So we left the K, the first part, and then we took out the 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so hang on a second. Change the numbering. So we had presumption of vernal pool habitat, and then demonstrating that a ponding area is not a vernal pool? Just take out that whole section?
Well, leave the K, but take out the 1, 2, 3.
Am I still sharing or no?
No,
No. Okay.
what we did was we left the language demonstrating that a vernal pool, that a ponding area is not a vernal pool. We said,
Yeah, we should say if evidence is presented by a qualified.
independent reviewer that satisfies the criteria described in section 6J above, which is the presumption of vernal pool habitat.
You guys were happy with
The
those
last
edits?
paragraph, the last sentence of that paragraph, J, says the presumption of vernal pool habitat may be overcome with the presentation of credible evidence, blah, blah, blah.
So I think we need to decide, do we want credible evidence, meaning from just someone from the public, or do we want a qualified reviewer? Since it's seasonal, maybe we should accept credible evidence.
Sorry?
Since a vernal pool is seasonal, maybe we should accept credible evidence.
I think but I would agree with you that the credible evidence should be presented by a qualified wetland expert.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want.
I think that's,
I'm not sure whether I trust myself to present that evidence, but I certainly wouldn't necessarily trust my neighbors to present that evidence.
Right, and that assumes that we have the expertise to then evaluate the
We
credibility.
can evaluate the evidence
Right.
presented, but
Exactly.
someone with some degree of credibility needs to make that presentation. So we want evidence presented by X, whatever. X.
so I think, Jennifer, I would need you to send that again, because to see those edits, and I can incorporate them. I think one thing that Concord does is they refer to a map, like the map of vernal pools, and we do have, I believe Rebecca started a project, and we do have Mass Mapper, the likely vernal pools that are there. So maybe, because there's certainly volunteers and people who are not professional wetland scientists who have had vernal pools certified by the state and that go around and do this. So I wouldn't want to disqualify somebody who can give us that type of evidence.
But they couldn't do that on someone's property unless they got permission. They couldn't just go out if it's a presumed wet vernal pool and certify it on private property.
Right. I don't think anybody has, well.
I think it's tricky. If we want expertise, then I think we have to define it, or we just say it doesn't matter. Just anyone can come with their evidence,
Can you share your screen and show me what you did? Because I
So I'm looking at, and Paul might be looking at something. Okay, no. So this was sent with the meeting materials for today. The Wakefield Wetlands Bylaw 6/26/25, and these are track changes in that document that were sent for today's meeting. I can't share my screen because I'm on 2 different screens.
No, that's okay. 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 So I started making edits before this was sent. Okay.
We're talking about sections J and K.
I thought I was sharing my screen earlier. I guess I wasn't. Oh, I see what happened. You put in a new paragraph called mitigation. Okay.
Yeah, we did do that, and I would like to look into that a little bit more, and have that be something we think some more about. But I was pointing out the demonstrating that a ponding area is not a vernal pool, those changes. And Paul was pointing out that we decided to rely on J, the presumption of a vernal pool habitat may be overcome with the presentation of credible evidence, which in the judgment of the commission demonstrates that the water body does not provide or cannot provide vernal pool habitat functions. What I'm showing we left in K and we didn't delete was that this information would be presented by a qualified independent reviewer. And I think that is a decision we have to make, is does that evidence against a vernal pool need to come from an expert or a qualified independent
Well,
reviewer?
we're not saying. We haven't necessarily said expert. We said a
Yeah, qualified
qualified
independent
independent reviewer.
Okay, is that defined in the WPA?
No, I don't
It's
believe
not.
so. I mean, I think we'd have to rely on what the words mean,
We'd have to rely on,
what those words mean.
yeah, I'm a little reluctant to do that.
We could define, can we define that in the regs?
We can. Good luck.
All right. We can look at that. I can't even. Oh, it's read only. Okay. Any,
Right.
I'm gonna stop.
We had a definition for isolated vegetated wetland that was added to this one, I think, or it's highlighted for some reason, E. Yeah, I think that was added.
Yeah, let me just leave a note here.
I think it's highlighted and underlined only because it was added.
Independent reviewer. Okay. Define. So are we thinking we need a clean definition or? Sorry. Or what do you think about, I guess, the map approach? Using Mass Mapper as a starting point.
For vernal pool definition?
Well, something like qualified reviewer or as listed on Mass Mapper as potential.
I'm not sure where the Mass Mapper data comes from, and whenever I've looked, I don't see a lot of vernal pools on Mass Mapper, so
Okay.
I'm concerned about how accurate that is.
Okay.
And what was the date that's based on? I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to someone presenting that as evidence, but I don't know if I want to say that that's sufficient.
Call it out as sufficient, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the, okay. Where the less than 1,000 square feet isolated wetland could help, but I don't think we have a ton of vernal pools, unfortunately. What was the other section you wanted to look at, Jennifer?
There are some edits throughout. There's isolated vegetated wetland is defined. That was added to the definitions under E.
There.
This
Section
was
6E.
newly added?
Section 6E. Section 6.
6E. I think that's okay. Unless you had concerns.
That looks fine to me.
But we have also a definition in section 3, definitions of isolated vegetated wetland. One of these should be deleted. We do not want to.
Where's the other one?
It's in
Oh,
section
here.
3, definitions. Paragraph 3.
I'm trying to think why we were moving it to a different section. I'm just gonna.
I think we were cutting and pasting from different sources,
Okay, hang on.
and we may have ended up with 2. Assuming they're the same, I don't really care which one goes away, but we do have, this is a section of definitions.
Okay.
Probably makes more sense to keep it there and remove it as its own separate.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look at them. I don't know if there's a way to share my screen because I just copied and pasted it side by side.
I'm just reading one and then the other, so.
Do I have a way to share my screen?
The latter one, I think, is actually a better definition.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So move that up and delete 3.
Okay.
That's what I'd suggest. Delete paragraph 3 of definitions. Yeah.
Mhm.
One suggested change there, Eleanor, in IBW, that one. IBW shall be protected under this bylaw if they are, rather than it is. Or change IBWs to an IBW.
Oh,
One way or the other. You just
if they are, yeah.
So it's just purely
Grammar.
grammar.
Yeah.
And meat,
So here, oh, sorry, meat.
rather than meats, meat, singular.
Oh, yes, thank you. Buffer zone. Was this, Judy, your isolated wetlands issue? Or are we okay the way this is? Not isolated wetland. I'm getting tired. I'm sorry.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, intermittent streams. Do we need to just read through this one again really quick? It's 200 feet of rivers and streams. Okay. 100 feet. I think, just read, I'm looking at the buffer zone definition. I'm trying to see if, because it's a long run-on sentence, it's taking on a new meaning. Just look at this again. I'm not sure if you read it, could it be read that you're applying a 200-foot buffer to other resource areas?
It does give us the ability to require maintenance of such a buffer, it seems to me.
It doesn't read that way to me, that it's extending a 200-foot buffer to all of the resource areas.
Okay.
It basically says the commission may require an applicant. It does not establish it as a matter of law. Grants us the authority to make that requirement.
Okay.
Question is this is part of permits and conditions, so it's appropriate that there be language here. Commission may require
I'm
for the reasons articulated previously in the paragraph.
I guess I'm wondering if we need to just make it into two sections, like the resource areas with the 100-foot buffer and the resource areas with the 200-foot buffer. Or is this clear enough? It's not a big deal. It's getting too late.
To be separate. I don't think it's that clear.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. You sound sick. Are you okay?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
But it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we need to, can we just regroup? I mean, Jennifer, did you hit on the other things you had? And then I just wanted us to regroup on action items or next steps.
I was looking at the WPA for, I mean, are you all aware of a section of the WPA that defines what an expert consultant is? I've been doing some searching, and the term I keep coming across is environmental professional expert, which essentially means someone who charges for their services. And that term is used repeatedly throughout the WPA. Consultant.
Professional expert.
Environmental professional expert.
Which has no definition in and of itself.
I didn't see one.
Yeah, I don't think it. It's another one of those. Read the words and.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least professional does mean that it's someone who
Yeah.
charges people for that.
Right. It also means that one of us could retire from the commission and hang out our shingle as an environmental professional expert. What's in that rubric then?
Okay. Where are you seeing that?
I'm looking at the WPA for
Just
that.
looking at the
Oh,
WPA,
okay,
not
okay.
our bylaw.
Okay, so independent, I'm just going to add a note next to independent reviewer.
You know, elsewhere in talking about the ANRAD, the issuing authority may require a delineation in an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to be performed by a professional with relevant specialized expertise. That's basically the same thing, a professional with relevant specialized expertise.
We say that like in the,
I think my thought would be, let's find one term we'd like to continue to use and use that.
I think to me, it's, we could always add a professional or subject matter expert in the, I don't know,
Yeah, I like the idea.
opinion of the commission, that type of thing.
Yeah, I like
Right.
the idea of a subject matter expert because that kind of expands what credentials they might have.
I mean, I think it's reasonable for us to have the ability to accept or reject that as well.
How would you say, in the opinion of the, or in, under the judgment of the,
Commission, don't we
Yeah.
have that somewhere?
Or we could also say we may require a professional, meaning we give ourselves the flexibility to say you need a professional or an expert to look at this.
okay. Is there anything else?
I think not for tonight, but I think conceptualizing the role of mitigation is something that we discussed.
Well, um, what were you guys, we won't talk about it tonight. I do want to understand what we were trying to do here. Okay. So I guess, do we want to regroup on next steps quickly, like just so it's clear where we're leaving off for the evening? So Judy is going to work with Sherry to secure those times. I looked at the calendar, Judy, and I didn't, just looking at when our other groups meet, I don't think that second and third Tuesdays, those off Tuesdays are bad.
Yeah, I think there's a limit of like 6 meetings at a time or something. There's sometimes on Zoom, but it's a high cap.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think there's anywhere near 6 meetings. And I think if we can do one in person or hybrid, that might be good. Or we try, or whatever you guys think. If you think virtual is the way to go, that's also okay because you can record it.
We're talking about these upcoming information or
Yeah, info working sessions, the sort of special meetings, I guess, the 23rd and the 30th.
okay. I'm quite happy with virtual, but
Okay.
Could we try to do a hybrid? Like with us using a space, is there space at town hall for us to meet and then be available on Zoom, even with just a laptop or something?
Town hall and public safety building, and it has to be recorded. So it has to be on Zoom no matter what.
Yeah.
think the public safety building is huge. Is there like the smaller room if possible?
Well, the one in town hall is smaller.
The room in town hall is smaller?
Yeah, the first floor conference room.
Okay.
I mean, if it's available, and then if not, just Zoom.
Can we share, we can still share our screen for Zoom purposes on that if we're working in the,
That I don't think so. I have to find out, but I don't think so. The meetings I've watched, they're not that great. I mean, sometimes it's looking at plans, or they have something on the table.
right?
There's nothing up on the screen.
So maybe,
Maybe just virtual.
yeah, unless the 30th, we could do,
Well,
in that conference
why don't we
room.
make a decision on the 23rd as to whether we want to try to do one in person or hybrid,
Mhm.
Okay,
rather than deciding that tonight.
okay. Just at
Um,
least line up
But I agree,
hybrid.
I think sharing screen is extremely helpful, especially when we're negotiating language.
Yeah,
And if that's not something we can easily do within the confines of town hall, I'd say that argues against it.
okay.
And I think we're talking about, you know, if we're trying to at least keep ourselves in a position to consider a fall town meeting, we would have to do the presentation on the 23rd, collect the feedback, do changes on the 23rd in that meeting, post that, and be ready to present that on the 30th.
It's aggressive.
Yeah.
On the other hand, just having watched these things go through that impact land use in particular, people, you do have a few people that show up, you know, and that are going to be look at the details and the regulations, and it's kind of, or not the regulation, but the language, and be very attuned to it. And those subject matter experts, we definitely want to try to get their feedback. The general public is either going to like the idea or not. And I think the most persuasive thing in that case is the presentation you have, and, you know, fine tuning that and showing those key slides. But these things we're working on to like fine tune, you know, the overall protections haven't changed, but they're the things that, you know, engineering would care about.
Yeah, and we can keep those, you know, even on the chance that it went into the November meeting, we can keep the October dates for more presentations, although at that point, there's no opportunity to change it. So at least we get a benefit of a heads up.
Yeah. Again,
and
I
a chance
don't,
to talk with people about why we made certain decisions.
yeah. Did you say you had started an FAQ? Or Ethan, had you started an FAQ?
I don't think so. I don't think we really received any comments other than the ones we had, but I think I'll get one started for these forums, definitely.
You know, like the invasive species one.
Mhm.
Um,
I'll put these ones into a document and we could have it on the side when we do the forums coming up.
yeah, like a Word document, just simple. And I guess we can email you some if we think of any.
Right, I remember Friends of Lake Quannapowitt wanted to comment on the final draft, so that would we'll just have to be paying attention to that.
Yeah, I don't think they only meet once a month, so they would comment on it at the beginning of October. So I sent them a presentation, the presentation, which I think was helpful. Yeah.
Anything further?
No, sorry, we have the meetings. I can circulate these edits and comments we have. And I guess try and make a suggestion. I'm not going to change much. It's just cleaning up. And then Ethan, you were going to draft the, just take the Concord regulations as a starting point.
Yep.
And you can, and then he had pointed me there. I think everybody and Attorney Bobrowski had pointed us there. So see if there's anything else he would want to see incorporated.
Who he?
Sorry, if there's time, Bill, but that's not critical. But at least to get a draft going.
Right, and perhaps looking at the standard conditions, not necessarily automatically putting them in, but I think we should be thinking about whether some of those should be part of our regulations.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Ethan, you were going to also add in the fee stuff that came from Elaine, and we can look at that with the regulations draft.
Yep, I'll add that. I'll see what else comes up when I do it too. I'll try to relate it to us in Wakefield as much as I can.
That would be great. And yeah, if you come across something, oh, we should think of this.
Yeah.
Suggest it. And then I think that's it. But just to wind down for the night, if there's any way we can get the minutes before we set the agenda, that I think that would be helpful to make sure we're kind of following up on stuff at the next meeting.
You mean the
So
agenda for these new two specials or the next?
just in
regular?
general, I guess we can talk about it well, we can include it, but just if we can just touch on some housekeeping stuff, like if you get the agenda, like if you get the minutes before you're setting the agenda, then you look through the minutes and see, oh yeah, we didn't finish this. We have to make sure that's on the next agenda.
Yeah, I'll talk to Judy about that and see what we can do. I'm not sure how the timing works, but I'll talk to Judy about that.
Yeah, I think that would be extremely helpful. It's just hard to get so much dropped at once. I think that's it. Can we continue the other topics and just adjourn the meeting for the night?
Just we do that, yes.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second, Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Eleanor,
Yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
thank
We're
you.
adjourned for tonight. We will see you in the 23rd.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay.